Final Fantasy is a series that has long been synonymous with change. Whether it be changing the way it tells its stories, changing up its gameplay style, or morphing into a completely different type of game altogether. In June of 1997, that is exactly what the legendary series did with its foray into the tactical RPG genre with Final Fantasy Tactics. Fresh off of the success of the worldwide phenomenon Final Fantasy VII, Squaresoft made a bold move, following up with Final Fantasy Tactics, a tactical RPG that was a stark deviation from their previous Final Fantasy titles. The game was quickly heralded as one of the greatest in the series by numerous journalists, as well as fans, and had been cited as one of the greatest games of all time. Today we're going to take a deep dive into why Final Fantasy Tactics isn't just good, but why it's great. Production on Final Fantasy Tactics had begun in 1995. The game was being produced by the legend himself, Hironobu Sakaguchi, who is universally recognized as the father of Final Fantasy. The task of writing and directing the project was handed to relative newcomer and creator of Quest Corporation's Ogre Battle, Yasumi Matsuno. When planning the game, Matsuno expressed his desire to create a tactical-style game that was highly accessible, with a story that centered around class-based combat. The catch to the story would fall in line with the classic ideology that history is written by the victors, thus the ability to rewrite history in a sense. Artists Hiroshi Minagawa and Akihiko Yoshida, as well as composers Hitoshi Sakamoto and Masaharu Iwata, were brought aboard to help give the tale its personality and bring the ambitious project to life. The game itself, nothing short of a masterpiece, in both gameplay and storytelling. When playing the game, you are instantly engaged with the characters, but it is quickly revealed through the narrative that the actual jobs the main characters occupy is a part of the story itself. Ramza, Delita, and Argus all start off mainly as squires, which is a metaphor for you as the player. As the game progresses through its chapters, as the main characters rise in prominence, so too do their jobs, as well as many of the other characters you encounter, unless of course you change those jobs. The gameplay mechanics are great, still to this day one of my favorite job systems ever in an RPG. The 2007 PSP remaster of the game titled Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions actually improved upon this system and added a couple of new jobs on top of that. As you play through the game, it becomes apparent early on that the game encourages you to grind, which is right in line with how someone like myself loves to play a game like this. Grinding battles for not only experience points, but job points, as well as not only satisfying, but it's a lot of fun. You can spend hours doing this and not even realize it. Also, in line with its title, part of the fun is devising different tactics you want to employ as you get more familiar with battle boards, entry points into those battles, and the enemies you encounter in those areas. Oh, and when you finally grind enough job points to acquire the chemist's auto potion skill, it's really time to rock. The gameplay is rewarding in and of itself, but the way that the art and music add to the experience just sets this on another level. And we haven't even touched the story and characters yet. The unique choices made in the game's art design, from characters to creatures and backgrounds, really set this game apart and breathe life into the world of Ivalice. The score is amazing. You will find yourself joyfully humming the tunes from the different battles while you're at work daydreaming about getting home and playing this game. Some of my favorite selections from the score are Antidote and The Pervert, which are actually right next to each other on the soundtrack, so maybe they knew that was going to happen, I don't know. The gameplay, the art, and the music create a sweeping gameplay experience, and on their own merits probably would have been the highlight in any other game. However, Final Fantasy Tactics is a different animal, and this animal's strength is its narrative. Believe me when I tell you that this story is a masterpiece, second to none. Now, there may be other stories out there that hold a bit more of a special place for me for personal reasons, but the story and characters of Final Fantasy Tactics can give any of those a run for their gill. In Final Fantasy Tactics, we are dropped into the world of Ivalice, where religious, social, and feudal politics rule over the lives of all, whether they be visible or moving in the shadows. The depth at which the influence of the church and its cardinals manipulate the great houses of Ivalice, such as the great house Beouv, and downtrodden commoners alike into becoming pawns is a masterclass in story architecture. You are dropped into the current day situation in the game as you, Ramza Beouv, with a band of mercenaries attempt to escort Princess Ovelia away from Orban Monastery. However, that mission doesn't exactly get off on the right foot. After the battle, Ramza recognizes a familiar face with the opposition, which sends the player back in time to where the War of the Lions truly begins, at the deathbed of Ramza's father. Now, I'm not going to spoil the story beats here for you. Suffice to say that it is absolutely the centerpiece of this amazing work of art. Just when you think you have an idea about what's happening and who the villains are, you're presented with a plot twist that turns all of your conceptions on their head. And this isn't achieved with some cheap misdirection tactics often employed in weaker storytelling. Rather, it is done through meticulous planning from the team so that each reveal makes sense within the construct of the narrative. And just like the narrative, the characters are well crafted and executed. At its core, the characters seem a little basic. Good characters are noble and selfless, baddies are selfish and scheming, but as the plot unfolds, each major character and even many of the mid-tier characters grow and change. Ramza and Delita are both excellent, as are mid-tier characters such as Mustadio, Thunder God Cid, and Agrius Oaks. And by the way, Agrius is easily my favorite tactics character and Final Fantasy heroine. All in all, Final Fantasy Tactics is an amazing story and incredible achievement and gaming masterpiece. If you consider yourself a fan of Final Fantasy, JRPGs, or just great storytelling, you owe it to yourself to play through this one at least one time. And you know what? Talking about Final Fantasy Tactics has me pretty hyped to go and play through it again. What are your thoughts on Tactics? Leave a comment below and be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also consider becoming a Patreon or YouTube channel member to help me create more videos like the Why It's Great series in the future. Details and links for those are in the description. So until you all see me again, have a great day, be safe out there, be good to each other, and keep rocking. I'll see you all in the next one. I want to say a quick thank you to my YouTube and Patreon members and supporters. If you would like to support the future creation of content on this channel, get some few extra perks and some art sent to your door every month, consider becoming a Patreon or YouTube member. Details and links are in the video description.